When is the best time to emigrate? A very, very important question. Timing plays a not insignificant role. In this video, you'll find out when is the best time for you to emigrate. Hello and welcome. My name is Florian Wilk. I am the Managing Director of CMC in Larnaca and Paphos, Cyprus, and we support emigrants on their journey to Cyprus, also to other countries, but Cyprus is our main location. And I keep getting asked the question, when is actually the best time? When should I leave Germany, Austria, or Switzerland? Is there such a thing as the perfect timing? And in my opinion, the answer to this is usually actually very, very simple, because the absolute best and most opportune time is always at the very end of the calendar year in order to properly and thoroughly close out the current tax year in your specific home country. That indeed is the optimal and most advantageous timing option. And in fact, as a rule, of course, it always depends on the individual case, even still within the current year, because the regulations regarding exit taxes are now regularly becoming stricter, and other legal frameworks also tend to keep getting worse, unfortunately, rather than improving for immigrants. Quite simply, why is that? Because, of course, many high performers, taxpayers who contribute significantly to the pot, so to speak, are leaving the country. On the other hand, there are ever-increasing expenditures, government spending, costs, and so on. That means the state naturally has an interest in keeping people in the country, but fewer incentives are being created to stay. Instead, the focus is more on making it even harder to emigrate by increasing the hurdles. And currently, I think that despite the exit tax, it's still relatively easy to emigrate from Germany with few obstacles. And it's certainly possible that lawmakers will come up with a few more measures in the coming years to make emigration even more difficult. For example, there could be an exit tax on crypto assets or on precious metals. There could be an exit tax on all securities or on real estate ownership. So there are quite a few possibilities. Currently, we don't have any of that. I don't want to scare anyone or spread panic, but it's sometimes quite astonishing when you look at a period of 10 or 15 years, what kind of tax changes lawmakers come up with and how much worse off people are today compared to 10, 15, or even 20 years ago. And the topic of emigration is especially relevant here. It's one of the main focuses. That's why the clear recommendation is act as soon as possible, ideally by the end of the current year. If it ends up being the following year, that can of course also be perfectly fine and make sense, but we always run the risk that the legal situation will become even stricter, which could simply result in tax disadvantages when moving away. Another important consideration, without going too much into detail right now, but just as a consideration, if I own a GmbH, if I am a shareholder in a GmbH, then the exit tax applies to me. And in that case, it can sometimes be interesting if, for example, I want to wind down my business anyway for personal or health reasons or something like that. Because if my GmbH shares are worth less, the exit tax also decreases. But first I need to know what are they actually worth. And I need a corresponding and appropriate appraisal. And I should, for example, definitely hire a professional auditor to meticulously determine what exactly my current holdings and assets are worth. And then I also have a basis to decide whether I pay the exit tax or maybe defer it if I emigrate within the European Union, or should I wait a few more years. I gradually reduce the overall value of my current holdings bit by bit simply by minimizing the business operations, which in turn generates significantly lower revenues and consequently lower profits. Perhaps I also have some tangible assets within my company that I specifically want to extract. Over the next few years, so there are really a lot of ways and possibilities. Sometimes, of course, it can be completely legitimate. This happens to us quite often, that someone says, I'm moving away in 5 years. I'm making my plan now. I've now reached an age where I'm thinking about how I want to spend my free time, and possibly somewhere warm, not in cold Germany, so to speak. And if I can optimize my taxes in the process, especially on passive income, in other words, no capital gains tax, as a non-dom in Cyprus, then of course that's a really, really great thing. So what I'm trying to say is there's no right or wrong. It's always an individual consideration and an individual plan. That's what you should be crafting. And if you need support with emigrating, if you might want to move to Cyprus and benefit from the 60-day rule and from the non-dom law, then feel free to get in touch with me. But also, if you're generally thinking about emigrating or starting a company abroad, you'll find a link below the video where you can sign up for a free initial consultation, absolutely free of charge and with no obligation. And in this conversation, we can work together to determine which plan or project might make sense for you. We often have clients who have a setup in mind that doesn't fit at all or is problematic from a tax perspective. And that's why it's so important to find an experienced sparring partner who can accompany and support you with these plans. Because there really are a lot of crucial and important considerations to make in order to simply avoid the typical mistakes and not pay expensive tuition fees. That happened to me as well. 15 years ago, when I emigrated from Germany, I turned to an advisor who seemed reputable and good, but I was simply given the wrong advice. And that's how CMC was founded back then, with the approach to provide sustainable and open-ended advice and support. So take advantage of this opportunity and let's talk about your plans, about your emigration. And if you liked the video, if you were able to take away a little inspiration for yourself, for your emigration, then feel free to give me a thumbs up. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm looking forward to our personal conversation, to getting to know you. See you very, very soon. Yours, Florantic.